All right, guys. So welcome to a second edition of Late Night Reds Talk with myself and Nicholas Kirby, writer of Red Leg Nation himself. So we made it. We are now at two. If I recall correctly, in terms of baseball, if you get two in a row, that's a hitting streak, right?
I think so. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'll take it. So, Nick, I kind of thought this would be a good time since we're now just 8 days away from opening day. How beautiful does that sound, by the way? Just so good to hear. Maybe we could take this week and kind of talk about, next week we're going to do our big opening day preview, obviously. I want to kind of take some time this week to kind of discuss about how we kind of feel the team fares throughout the rest of the division. Obviously, the NL Central's offseason was one that was extremely unique, where you didn't see a ton of teams make a ton of moves, and all of a sudden the Cardinals get Nolan Arenado. Some of those big-time Cubs players from their Theo Epstein run are now gone, like Yu Darvish, Kyle Schwarber, so on and so forth. And then the Pirates are just, I don't know if you can qualify them as a Major League Baseball team right now with all the guys they have, though I am really excited to see Brian Hayes play. So when you kind of look at the division as a whole, everyone seems to think the Cardinals are the favorite. I tend to agree with that at the moment. But there's got to be some optimism for the Reds, especially playing in this division with, like I said, before the Nolan Arenado move, it's like no one really did anything else.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess you start with like what happened in 2020. The Cubs won the division, but the Cubs lost more than anyone else. They lost more than the Reds. You're losing Darvish and Bauer is a wash, but then the Cubs lost Lester. They lost a lot of other pieces. So I think that the Reds, just by virtue of not losing as much as them, probably gained some ground on the Cubs. The Reds and Cardinals were dead even last year. The Cardinals technically had that like 0.001 ahead because they didn't have to play all their games for whatever reason. The Reds and Cardinals were dead even. I would say, the Cardinals are probably favorites, but I think it's slight. I don't think it's this massive gap. I think the Brewers are right there too. The Brewers, they were one of the 8 playoff teams. They were right in the mix last year. The Brewers pitching is really sneaky good. They don't have like the Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray really at the top, but they're, I think, a lot deeper than anyone else in the division. I think the Reds have the best pitching, but the Reds are a little more, I feel, top heavy. I think, everyone's like, okay, well, it's just going to be a fight to whoever wins the division. Well, sometimes when you have a weak division and when you have a team that is a real bottom feeder in the Pirates, if one of these other NL Central teams has a bad year, if one of these teams just get decimated by injuries and they're another, 90-loss team, you could see 2 teams from the NL Central getting in the playoffs just simply out of, someone's got to win these interdivision games. So I don't think it's like crazy to think that 2 teams from the Central will get in. I think there will be at least one team in the Central fighting for a wild card spot. I think it's a close race. I think it's gonna, probably come down to, who has the fewer injuries, who has the most things go right, who has the Nick Senzel that has a breakout season. I think it probably comes down to that, and it's just a lot of have to wait and see, which, I think makes it exciting.
It does. I completely agree. You mentioned, with Milwaukee being a little deeper. Yeah, I would agree. I think the Reds, talent-wise, especially at the top, like you said, it's going to be hard to compete in a best of 3 if it gets to that, with Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray. It's pretty hard to kind of get through those 2 guys. And so, I'll talk about Milwaukee. Obviously, Brandon Woodruff was really good. He had an awesome year last year. Was kind of really maybe became the team's ace. You talk about other guys in that division. Obviously looking around, Jack Flaherty has been huge for St. Louis. I can't believe Adam Wainwright is still pitching in the majors. Like, that's amazing to me. Kudos to him, but that kind of blows my mind. And then Kind of going to that bullpen. I know looking at your projections you had that you posted today, it showed Amir Garrett as like fourth as the your top reliever. You had Lucas Sims actually as the number one, number two, number one, second reliever is what I meant, and then Sean Doolittle is the second, number three. Um, what does that kind of tell you overall for this group as far as like the rotation and then the bullpen, how you feel, where your feelings are with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Reds. I think the Reds have the best rotation. I think Milwaukee's a little bit deeper, but I would take the Reds just because. Now, this is assuming Gray pitches most of the year, so
Right.
we're going to hold our breath that he is. I don't know how many times we've heard, "Oh, this guy's going to be ready 2 weeks into the season," and then 3 months later, it's like the Alex Wood situation. So I assuming Gray and Castillo pitch most of the year, I like the Reds a little bit better. Maybe that's a homer. If so, yeah, sue me. Um, the Brewer, I like the Reds bullpen. I mean, the Brewers with Hader and Williams. I mean, that's just
Right.
you don't want to be trailing or in a tie game with the Brewers in the seventh inning when those guys are rested. But remember, Greg Council has a pretty strict policy where he does not like to pitch those guys, I think, 3 days in a row. So hopefully, when you play the Brewers, those guys have pitched back-to-back games, fighting with the Cardinals or whoever they were playing. So yeah, I mean, Garrett, his projections aren't good just because War does not like him because he has walked a lot of guys. Amir Garrett, when he is on, is electric. He is incredible, but he walks too many guys. So he's got to find a way to, he can't. If you're a guy that that walks guys, you're not just going to magically become a control pitcher. He can't do that without I think losing some of his upside, but he's got to cut down the walk some. If he does, he's great. I'm like I talked last week. I love Lucas Sims. I think Lucas Sims is a really really good reliever. I think he could be getting close to the Hader level by the end of the year. That may be a bold prediction. Um, I don't know what to expect out of Doolittle. He got really roughed up this spring. I think his last outing he looked pretty good. I just honestly out of Doolittle, I hope he's a league average reliever. If he is, hey, that would feel pretty good with me. And then yeah, I mean, I think the Reds have a lot of other pieces. It looks like Antone's going to start in the bullpen, so
I
we have
saw that.
Antone's not even like on that list. But Antone's, I mean, got electric stuff, and if he's only pitching an inning, 2 innings at a time, I mean, he can be really lethal. So I mean, that's four. I feel really quality relievers. And then I like some of the other guys, a little deeper down. So yeah, I think the Reds have a solid pen. I wouldn't say they're as good as the Brewers. Just was, the Brewers bullpen is like the Reds rotation. It's super top heavy, but that's a great thing because they're really really good. It's like they kind of flip flop the rotation in the bullpen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just put in the chat real quick. Want to say what's up, Parker, Sean, Carlos. Thanks for joining us. Carlos coming back for a second week, so he must have liked us the first time. So definitely
Glutton for
appreciate it.
punishment.
Yeah. So let's go through the positioners because here's one thing. And look, service time and all this stuff, we know how that goes. Looking at your projections, I noticed at second base you had one Jonathan India listed there. It seems like, with everything you're hearing in spring training, it seems like he's going to be part of the roster this year. Is that something where, in your eyes, are you putting that in because you feel like he's going to be their opening day? Or do you feel like this is so they can get that service time? Maybe he's a May call up. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but Kansas City fans are losing their mind right now that Bobby Witt Jr. is not starting with them at the beginning of the season.
Well, I put this out, I think a few days ago. Just because Jonathan India starts the season on the opening day roster doesn't mean the Reds still won't manipulate his service time.
True.
You can manipulate it later on. You don't have to, you don't have to have your 3 whatever weeks down at the beginning of the year. It could be in the middle of the year. It seems likely India will probably slump at some point. I highly doubt Jonathan Indy's going to come up and, hit great all year. I remember Amir Garrett, I think it was 17 maybe. He came up. He was incredible like for 3 weeks and he had like one bad start and they demoted him. for service time. So like I could see like maybe that being the India situation. But yeah, I mean every sign points to that's what they're going with. So until I hear otherwise, or until we start seeing Suarez move back to third base, in spring training games, I'm gonna assume India's the starting second baseman, and I would take the WAR projection for him with a grain of salt because Zip's projections never gives a rookie really any light of day. So his projection is pretty much honestly worthless. Um, um, but he could be good. He could be bad. We're gonna have no idea until he starts, playing games.
Well, I have a lot of India stock right now. I've been going on eBay and getting as many rookie cards as I possibly can. So I'm really hoping, Nick, that we get a really good Jonathan India, like we seem to be getting this spring training. But yeah, you bring up a really good point as far as how you can manipulate service time and the call ups and the sundowns. And I know a lot of people kind of point to the whole Mike Leake thing because he skipped the majors, and a lot of people always bring that as up as a reference. 11 years later, I don't really get that. That's neither here nor there, though. So let's kind of look specifically when you look at this group, and we know, you brought up a ton of points about the defense and where it could really struggle. And, this move for Suarez to kind of get India's bat in the lineup and get Moose back to a more comfortable position. Maybe it's a good thing for this team as far as like hitting wise. And, I saw a lot of people were kind of talking about Joey Votto. He just came back to spring training after his COVID absence. And you're hearing him talk a lot about, well, I'm going to hit for power this year. My goal is to hit for power. It seems like he's kind of sacrificed a little bit more to try to get more of those, more balls to pop in the air. So when you kind of look at the infield specifically, what are some things that jump out to you? What are some things that excite you about this group?
I think it's a really good infield. I think if India hits league average, which that might be a bit of an ask for someone who didn't get to play in the minors last year. If he gets close to league average, I think it's a really good infield. We know I talked last week ad nauseum about how much I think Suarez is going to just get back to his 2019 self.
Me too.
Dawkins, I mean, he's every year he's been an above average hitter, and then Votto had an 800 OPS last year. If you really dig into the splits with Votto, he's had three years where he really has hit very well against right-handed pitching. It's just the left-handed pitching that he struggles against. There's not that many left-handed starters in the division. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good infield. Maybe not an elite infield, but I think compared to the rest of the division, I think it's probably close to as good as anyone else. Maybe probably Goldschmidt and Arenado, and DeYoung. That's probably better, but I think the Reds have a pretty good infield.
Yeah, I did too. I think when I look, especially like you talked about everything the Cubs got lost. You're seeing obviously Rizzo's still there, Baez is still there, Bryant's still there, but it's that whole like, and it's hard to not like Wilson Contreras. It's like that's like their kind of their leaning point now, right? Because I lost all these guys, but that's the core group they kept together. And it's like, how can they keep that group up for 162 days? We saw Rizzo really kind of have ins and outs struggles. And like we said, it's really hard to dictate, a 60 game season. But I do feel really strongly that the Cubs might have the really good infield. I wouldn't know if I'd go as far as the best, but I don't think the Reds are too far behind them. And if people in our chat room say I'm crazy, I totally get it. Maybe I am. But do I think Wilson Contreras is better than Tucker Barnhart? Yes. Do I think Tyler Stevenson has a tendency to be where he could be a really special player and maybe kind of take this Tucker Barnhart thing like we talked about last week? Absolutely. So kind of going position by position. Would you say Contreras is still the best catcher in the Central as far as hitting wise, or do you think there's someone else in the division that kind of gives him a run for his money?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say Wilson Contreras.
Yeah,
He's proven it. Um, um, I think Molina's an above average. Sorry, well below average hitter. I think Jacob Stallings is the Pirates guy. He's not very good. So yeah, I mean, Tucker Barnhart is at least probably the third best catcher in the division, and I don't think Tucker Barnhart's really anything special, but yeah, I mean, it's not a strong core, everyone in the division. But yeah, I mean, I think the Reds are competitive catcher wise compared to the division.
Yeah, I do too. I think like when you look at it, I think first base is just so loaded in this division. You kind of like when you put your projections up, it showed Votto as fifth of five, which is insane. I know he's 37, had a down year, but like you look at the rest of this group and you're like, oh, obviously Rizzo, Goldie, Hira, and Colin Moran for Pittsburgh, who everyone's still kind of waiting to see really just kind of blow up after his like excellent college career. He's kind of see what he could be. So that first base kind of seems really interesting to me as far as how deep it is throughout the division.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have Votto ahead of Moran.
I would too, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those other three. I mean, there's no shame in being fourth in the NL Central. At how old is Votto? Is he 38? I feel like hopefully I'm not like completely butchering that.
37, I'm going to say.
37. I had in my head some reason I said 38. Actually, he will be 38 this year in September, so he will be 38 at some point this year. So yeah, I don't think there's any shame in being fourth behind Rizzo, Goldschmidt, and
No.
Hira. But yeah, I mean, yeah, first base is just it's loaded.
Yeah, for sure. And we can go through all of this, obviously. I'm kind of talking about the different spots. So who's kind of is there anyone in the Central particularly you kind of see taking the next step, Reds or not Reds, who can really kind of, you talked about like someone who's just going to make this major difference. Yes, Sean Votto does still bang. We saw the hashtag. We greatly appreciate it, man. Where do you, is there someone, what was my
someone that I
question?
someone that I see taking off in the division.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like probably the cop out answer would be maybe Dylan Carlson. He wasn't that great last year, but he's one of the top prospects in baseball. So yeah, obviously him. I mean, the Pirates have like 50 guys that are in their first year, so maybe one of those guys have a breakout season. But I don't know how much that'll really matter for them. I'm kind of looking through. I mean, really, the NL Central's a lot of established guys.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, nobody really has, younger guys with Carlson. They got Tyler O'Neill. The NL Central is like the bounce back division. I feel like Javier Baez, had a really bad year last year. Suarez, Arenado was terrible last year. Chris Bryant was really bad last year. In the 60 game season, Moustakas wasn't. So there's just so many guys that are just like bounce back guys. But yeah, there's not a lot of super. I don't feel like guys that are up and coming. Hopefully, guys like Tommy Edman, that kind of had this like kind of out of nowhere breakout. Hopefully, they kind of fall back down to earth. That would really help the Reds.
So since we kind of mentioned, I just looked up the win lines for all the teams in the Central. Right now, the Pirates' win line is 58.5.
I guess I'd take the over just because I feel like it's really hard to win in 60 games. I mean, that's that's tough.
Well, yeah, like you said, there's so many first year players. Like I've done, I'm a big fantasy baseball guy, so I look at the numbers. Like I'm excited about the idea of Cabrian Hayes kind of being this big time player, but it's like they're literally my least favorite franchise in sports. Like I
Oh
do not want to see this succeed. Like I just don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully they'll play decent against the other four teams. I mean, they're definitely a team to root for when they're not playing the Reds, just because they're not going to be competing for a playoff spot. So any win the Pirates give you against any of the other teams, you want that for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Let's kind of talk about the outfield real quick. We got some interesting news today that an arbitrator said that Aristides Aquino is now out of options. Obviously he spent a lot of time at the alternate site last year. Shogo Akiyama's been hurt. We're still kind of waiting to see what happens with him. Winker, who we talked about last week, had just a really good season last year. That 388 OBP was awesome. You and I both expressed we're still pretty high on Nick Senzel. We still really believe in his skill set. And then obviously, looking at the rest, the right field, there's options, and that's not a bad thing to have specifically in the outfield. With guys going down, guys diving for balls here, but it still feels like it's young. But when you look at like what they have going in the future, it just seems like there's a lot to be excited. Now, obviously, Nick Castellanos, who I know the batting average wasn't super attractive last year, but the fact they played a 60 game season, he had 14 home runs. It's pretty amazing to see what they could do. Like I feel like offensively upside, they're really a lot to be excited about. Like you said, like this is a team that had nothing go for them last year at the plate, but still were amongst the best National League teams in OPS. So when you talk about this group, like I really think the Castellanos is going to be awesome this year, and there's a lot of upside there offensively. But obviously the offense, other concern is definitely making sure balls don't hit the ground in the outfield. And I don't know if this team's going to be the best at that by any means.
Yeah, hopefully Senzel brings his glove and he's ready to run because the corners aren't very good. Um, but yeah, I mean, on Aquino, I think it would be nuts if he's not on the opening day roster unless
Right.
they trade. I can't imagine you would just let him go. Someone's going to pick him up. I mean, there's teams like the Pirates that they could throw him out in the outfield and see what happens. So I wouldn't be stunned if they did pull off some last minute trade to get something for him if they want to go another direction. But if they don't, I mean, I imagine he's going to be on the roster. I hate to have a guy just sit and rot, for a lack of a better word. But if he's out of options, there's not much else you can do. You're going to have to put him on the roster. But yeah, I mean, I Winker and Castellanos are really, really good hitters. And then if Senzel, kind of has that big year, I mean, yeah, the Reds could have as good of an outfield as anyone else in the division. I think Jason Hayward, Jason Hayward always, to me, the last like 5 years feels like I like WAR, but like he feels like the reason to not believe in WAR, because like I don't see how he's like the best right fielder in the division, second best outfielder in the division total, like in projected WAR. I just don't see it. But yeah, he's a guy you put a left-handed reliever out there, he's pretty much an automatic out. So yeah, I don't really see that. But yeah, I mean, I think the Reds have a competitive outfield, and hopefully they all stay healthy because they really don't have a lot of depth unless Aquino, does have a kind of a breakout or break back or whatever you want to say back to his 2019 season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of people, when they kind of look at him and they're like, talk about his inconsistencies, it's hard to forget, it's hard to remember just because of that, after the Yasiel Puig trade, obviously he had that incredible month where he was, the best hitter in baseball for a month. Um, he's only played 80 major league games. He's got 21 homers in 80 major league games. Like that's pretty awesome. So yeah, I think the upside still like you said, like opposite of the options, he's going to be on the team. Whether it's the fifth bat, the fourth outfielder, the DH when they play against when they play in American League teams. I'm all for it. I think that there's such you got to keep that skill set up there. And obviously, like, just maybe that's just me being romantic about the fun we had that post Puig trade and just how crazy he went. Like, I would go to games every night just about to see him hit homers, and he would. So it's hard to kind of see like what his future can hold, especially because it seems like those corners, like you said, kind of feel like they're like set in stone. But I'm excited for Aquino. I feel like he's gonna give us something. Maybe it's 13, 14 home runs off the bench. I'm cool with that. I don't need him to hit 70, 35 homers off the bench. If he did, that'd be terrific. I don't know if anyone's done that. But also, like, you mentioned Nick Senzel. And I think you and I had a very similar reaction. We were kind of talking earlier this spring. They were playing the Diamondbacks, and there was a televised game. And he was like the first inning, and he hit a bomb. And I think you and I both went, okay, I'm not going to get excited about this. I can't get excited about this. And then you're like, but if this is what this is going to be, because I still believe like there's, obviously there was a reason he went so high as he did in the draft. We know the talent level's certainly there. It's just waiting for him to catch on. And I feel like he definitely has the ability to do just that.
Yeah, I feel like Senzel and Malley, that's the two guys that, if you want to look at two guys and look at their end of season numbers in 2021, you look at those two guys. If Malley has an ERA like below 4 and Senzel has an OPS above 800, Reds probably have a good year. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of other things that have to go right or not go right, whatever. But I feel like if you want two guys to look at, okay, where did the Red season go? Those are probably the two guys to look at, because they just have, I feel like the highest degree of variance on if they have a good year or they don't take that step forward.
Yeah, I agree. So like we talked about the rotation, talked about the bullpen. We've kind of gone through the position groups, how they compare to the rest of the division. Let's kind of go through this real quick and kind of say like, if we had to kind of pick how we thought the division would go, if obviously 8 days for opening day, anything can happen. God forbid Nolan Arenado could get hurt. Spring training tomorrow, and then all of a sudden he's out 60 days. Not that that obviously sucks for the Cardinals, but everyone healthy right now. What we're looking at so far in the Central with what we have in front of us, where do you feel the Reds will potentially end? Where they will stand amongst the division, that group?
All right, so here's my bold prediction, but I'm gonna have it a little more layered. Okay,
I
so
like it.
I have a theory. Okay, so I think the Cubs pitching is awful, and I think it is just gonna kill them. I hope I'm hoping a little bit, but their pitching's really really bad. Starting rotation 1 through 5 relievers, they are really really bad. So I'm hoping that just absolutely decimates them in the first half. And when we get to the trade deadline, the Cubs are sellers. I mean, Bryant's a free agent. Is Baez a free agent, or does he have 2 years left? They have a lot of guys that are, either have 1 year or 2 years left. They're going to be big sellers. Reds played 10 of their games against the Cubs after like July 26th, so like right before the trade deadline. So the Cubs are going to be big sellers. By the time the Reds play those 10 games against the Cubs are going to have a prospect-ish team. Maybe not like full prospect. They'll still have like Rizzo but they're not going to be as good. So I'm going to bank on the Reds getting those couple extra wins from the Cubs. I'm going to say that the Reds and Cardinals are the last two teams standing. The Brewers are right there. I'm going to say the Reds edge out the Cardinals the final weekend of the season. Reds clinch on the last day of the year in Pittsburgh against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That was very layered. You were not lying. I like it. So I'm optimistic. I'm excited. I feel like if everything, they're going to get more luck this year than they did the plate last year. Obviously, one of those just being the fact they're going to have time to get in rhythm. I believe that if they had more than 60 games last year, the way things were going after Shogo kind of started getting hot, you saw the offense get a little bit better. Obviously, that's not how the playoffs ended. We never have to talk about that ever again. But as high as I am on the team, and I think they could be really good, you're seeing this young talent go up and down. I kind of still feel like they're just slightly behind St. Louis. I hate to say it. I do. But, with Goldie and Arenado, Paul DeYoung, I just feel like, those guys are probably going to give them a little bit more bang for their buck. It's hard to not, be impressed by the talent of guys like Jack Flaherty. He's always been really good for them since he's been in the majors. So I just feel like they just kind of have a slight bit there. But that's not to say if I thought the Reds kind of went out there and they did beat St. Louis and Milwaukee, those teams, I'd be shocked. Just right now, I feel like I got to kind of go with the culture that is St. Louis as much as it pains me. And look, everyone dropped out of the room right after I said that.
Yeah. The Cardinals, I mean, with them, it's I guess how good is their rotation going to be?
Yeah.
They're banking on guys like Carlos Martinez that hasn't even really been a fixture in their rotation. So they have a lot of. I mean, I feel like they have it like 1 through 5. They're all Flaherty's really good, but 2 through 5, I feel like they're all pretty good. But how good are they? If they're mediocre, 2 through 5, I think that gives the Reds a pretty good chance. But if Kim and Michaelis and Martinez are all good, it's really going to be an uphill battle for the Reds. So it depends how good those guys are.
Yeah, it's awful. I hate saying everything about that what I just said, but I do feel like this is going to be Nick Senzel's breakout year, though. I really feel good about the Nick Senzel run this year, if he's healthy.
Yeah, yeah, got to stay on the field. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, that's exactly. Well, we got a few more minutes here. So Parker, Sean, Carlos, Jeff, Will, if you guys want to ask us anything, you can click that request to speak. I'm sure Nick and I are happy to answer a couple questions. Got anything in the chat you want to send our way, by all means. So yeah, we're happy we're doing this. We're glad you guys are joining us. So by all means, just click that request to speak, and we'll let you on.
Not all at once.
Yeah, not all at once though. We gotta tame the zoo, obviously. Um, yeah. Oof. I can't believe I literally looked it up while we were talking. 58 and a half. I don't know if I've ever seen a major league win team have that low of a win line. I don't think I ever have.
There can't be that few. And 58 and a half in a relatively weak division too. It's not like
Right.
they're with the Dodgers or in the a division with the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays when they're all good. I mean that's 58 in a weak division. Woo.
Yeah, because I saw Fox did their projections, which are always miserable. Um, and they said for the AL it was the Yankees winning the East, which I kind of expected they would. I think they had. I can't remember if they had one in the AL Central. I want to say it was the White Sox. Yeah, it was the White Sox. Everyone loves Luis Robert this year. I think he'll be pretty good though. And then they had the Angels winning the West, and then the NL they had the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Braves. And I was kind of I thought the only thing I kind of was kind of taken back by was the way that it kind of I think that's kind of the general, but it's still weird seeing the Angels as far as the favorites in the division because it's as incredible as Mike Trout has, I still feel like we've been waiting for that super playoff moment. Considering I think he's at 10 postseason at bats.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, can you invite Carlos to speak? He
Yeah,
said he's not able to request. See if maybe that'll work. Carlos
yeah,
wants
just sent
to
one to
jump.
him.
All right, Carlos, there you go, bud.
Try it again. Invite to speak. Yeah, just sent it to him.
If anyone else has any questions, put it in the chat if you want.
Yeah. It's so funny we started talking about doing this a couple weeks ago. It's one thing that we have people here, which is awesome, but people hang the whole time. I thought it would be a thing where people check in, but oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But it's been cool. We've been having people in these for 4 or 5 people in here throughout the whole time. Really neat for this side idea we had.
Yeah, for some reason it's not working. I'll see if Carlos will just send us his question. You could also at me on the old Twitter if you got a question. You just
I do
do
feel, yeah. So when we planned this, I felt so bad that the guy who does Locked On Reds sketches for the exact same time. I was like, oh crap! It's I did not intend to do that. So I think I owe him an apology.
I think we did it first though.
Yeah, I think we did.
How dare not have our schedule?
Yes, yes.
It's been set in stone.
He had Nightingale on his pod the other night. It was actually pretty good.
Oh wow, Bobby.
Yeah, yeah.
No hot takes like his pops though, right?
I think he said something about he could see Votto hitting 25 homers this year.
Yeah, I mean he hit 14 last year.
Yeah,
I mean 14
I get
times
that.
2. Yeah,
I
I
get
mean
down with
that's
that.
yeah. Let's go 30. Let's go real big.
Yeah, let's do it. That's our prop bets next week for people who are going to come back. We're going to do our over under picks for
I
these
think I
crazy
went.
stats.
Let's not go 30.
I was
Let's
trying
see
to think
20.
Griffey's 37-year-old season was 2007. Ooh, okay, we got a good question here from Will in the chat. What do you guys wish the Reds did this past offseason? I think the obvious is got to be shortstop, right?
Yeah, yeah, I wish they would have got a shortstop. So they weren't putting in a guy at shortstop that, they have no idea how good he's going to be or not, and if he's going to be able to catch the ball. And yeah, I mean, they should have got a shortstop. I guess if you want me to be more specific, I wish they would have got Marcus Semien. I thought he was the best value. I have a hard time believing. I think he got 18 million. I have a hard time believing if the Reds offered him 20 million, he wouldn't have accepted that to play shortstop for 1 year, as opposed to going to Toronto to play second base. Because I would think that his value would increase by playing shortstop as opposed to playing second base. So, I mean, unless he just really hates Skyline Chili, I have no idea why he wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like this, like Bob Castellini's the devil.
Yeah,
He should be Dodgers. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Like, it is Cincinnati. It is one of the smallest markets. They get a pass for some of it, but I don't know. Not being able to afford 20 million for a shortstop with everything else you spent, I don't feel like that would have killed them. So I guess that's my biggest thing. A little more low key. Like, I wish they would have ponied up and paid DeSclafani like 6 million too. I feel like he's going to be the one at the end of the year, especially with numbers he's going to put up in San Francisco. I feel like people are going to be like, oh wow, yeah, it was
yeah,
pretty write him off after like 8 starts, you know. So yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the two things that I think the most. We got another good question here too. Do you want to read it?
yeah. It's from Sean. He said, "Do you guys think the emergence of India and Suarez moving to shortstop could eliminate the need for a shortstop during the season, or do you think they could still look for one if they're in the hunt at the deadline?" So my pipe dream answer to that is I don't know if you have a subscription to The Athletic, but there's that article going on right now about just like how terrible of a franchise the Rockies are right now. And everyone's kind of talking about the whole Arenado thing and how it was like really kind of kept under wraps. I'm like, if this keeps up and they're just still this bad, do the Reds have enough to throw at them to get Trevor Story?
Yeah, I mean, especially for 2 months. I mean, he's not going to be worth much for 2 months. Especially now, teams just don't give as much up in prospect capital as they used to. So,
Right.
like, Story 5 years ago for 2 months would have cost you a lot more than now. Teams are smarter not to blow up their team for 2 months. So yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, you also gotta consider, there could be a big injury at some point that would let you put Senzel back at third base. Let's just say, and I don't want to put any evil on Mike Moustakas. Let's just say Mike Moustakas gets hurt. Then you could have, and India does perform, you could have Suarez back at third, India at second base, and, bring in, Story or whoever else. Yeah, there'll be plenty of shortstops I feel like probably available at the deadline. So yeah, I don't think that alleviates just because there could be an injury. India could not hit. I mean, there's so many variables to that. They could put India out in left field if an outfielder gets hurt. I mean, there's so many different things. I think and I think the Reds will probably be more willing to go get a shortstop. Um, I don't think that the Reds not getting Story was about like them not wanting to give up like the prospects, or not even Story, but maybe trading for someone else like a Willie Adames or whoever else. I don't think it was about the prospects. I just don't think the Reds. I don't think the Reds wanted to pay that. I think it was 17 million, but you know what, like a prorated that's 7-8 million. Yeah, they might be able to swallow that, especially if they're able to get fans in and build some revenue throughout the season.
Yeah,
I got
I'm
one.
with you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah, do you have
No,
any
no, by any
other?
means. Parker Perry had one that I want to touch on real quick. I saw, and we'll get to yours as well. He said he was going to ask, is Suarez moving to shortstop a desperation move or is it an example of India forcing his way into the lineup? I think it's a little bit of both. Do I think it's more desperation than India? Yes, but I do feel like you're kind of realizing like the Reds, David Bell and company feels like they're most confident and their best hitting wise might be with Jonathan India in the lineup. So that would be my if I hate to kind of give like a down the line answer, Parker, but I do kind of feel like it's a little bit of both in that circumstance.
Yeah, I got to agree with you too, just because I didn't like India was not on my radar to make the opening day roster. Like if you would have told me 2 months ago Jonathan India is going to be on the opening day roster, I would have said what? Like there's no way. Like so yeah, I do think he forced them, but it's still a desperation move. Because if you would have got a shortstop, you wouldn't have had to do that. And maybe maybe India looks at playing somewhere else if he does have this breakout, or maybe he even with the breakout still starts the year and well they're not having AAA to start the year, but he starts the year going to the minor league camp and you know and if he continues to show you, then maybe he forces your hand into finding a spot for him. But yeah, I think it's a combination of. I mean, it definitely is desperation, but India being the person that you bring up, um, I don't feel like that part of it is desperation. I feel like he completely forced their hand.
Yeah.
We'll get to Will in a second. Let me get the one from Carlos that he sent me. With Antone going to the pen, what role do you see for him in a close game at the beginning of the season? So I guess I'm gonna Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I guess I'm saying so. Let's say Luis Castillo goes 6 innings on opening day. There's only 3 innings left. I would say they would probably not use Antone if Castillo gets into the 7th inning. I think they would use Sims and Garrett. I think Antone's probably going to be more of the Michael Lorenzen, Wade Miley, Jeff Hoffman go 4 or 5 innings. I think Antone's going to be used more in, okay, it's a tie game, Reds are up 1, Reds are maybe even up 2 or 3, but they still have to get 15, 18 outs. I think Antone's going to be the guy that comes in the 5th, pitches like the 5th into like the 7th. I think that's going to be more, and that's super valuable because how many times have we seen the Reds have a starter not be able to go deep, maybe they even have a 3-run lead and it evaporates because you're bringing in your long guy that's not really a major league caliber pitcher. That's probably more where I see his role, and I think that's super valuable. Do you have any thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like TJ Anton reminds me of like good Alfredo Simon. Like, you remember when like they would
Yeah,
use Simon, there's like 3, 4 innings. He would come in, like Cueto would throw 6, and he would come in and throw the rest of the game. Like, I feel like he has the upside to have that role. You could throw him in to be your spot starter when needed. Like, and I still feel like he's gonna end up, maybe not this year necessarily, but I really still feel like in his tenure with the Reds, he very well could still end up being in the rotation. But for this year, with how they kind of have everything set up, like I don't feel bad or like feel nervous about the idea of TJ Anton being the, Alfredo Simon like role for this team.
yeah, I think he will start this year. As sad as it is, and I don't want to jinx anyone or anything. I know there's going to be a ton of pitching injuries, not just with the Reds, but with all of baseball, with only playing 60 games, guys not being fully stretched out after a year. So yeah, I think there'll be plenty of starts. I would be, if I'm like going over under, assuming Antone stays healthy all year, I would say he probably makes at least 15 starts, maybe more. I think at some point he will be needed. But yeah, I don't have an issue at all with what they're doing with him right now.
Yeah, I don't either. And so Will asked, how did you guys feel about a couple years ago getting rid of Taylor Trammell being Taylor Trammell in order to get Trevor Bauer? And this comes up a lot still. It's kind of interesting to me because I feel like, and look, I'm not just saying this about like anyone, so Will, please don't take offense to this. But I feel like our fan base, being the Reds fan base, is always very nervous about moves. Like they want to play things close to the chest. If you remember, let's go back to 2012. It was like, well, how are we going to sign Joey Votto? And then he signs the mass contract. And everyone's like, well, we paid him too much. And it's like, well, that's what we had to do to keep him. And then, that offseason, they go and get Sean Marshall. They go and get, Matt Latos, who, people will have mixed reviews on, obviously. But 2012, end of the year, Matt Latos was pretty awesome. I can't take it away from him. And it feels like, in that movie, even people are like, well, we gave up this guy, and this guy, and this guy. So I feel like it's something where people are really cautious about, and I respect it. Like I understand it. You root for a small market team. You're nervous about giving up what could potentially be future players. But in that circumstance, like I feel like it was in front of them, and they had to do it. And look, we all saw Trevor Bauer really was up and down that half season after the trade deadline. I feel like a lot of that was just kind of getting used to a new environment. And we obviously saw what he did last year in a shortened season. I think Bauer's terrific still. I'm a big fan of his. I hate that he's pitching for the Dodgers. I understand why he's not a Red anymore. I'm not mad he's not a Red anymore, but like I feel like in that circumstance, you knew Puig was kind of declining. I feel like 10 times out of 10, I would have done that move.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What do you want out of the Reds? You want them to give the team a chance to win the World Series. The Reds had a chance to win the World Series, and I know people are like, well, they didn't score a run in the playoffs. Well, I mean, it was like the first inning, I think Suarez hit a ball that if it would have gone like 1 foot farther past the shortstop, the Reds score a run. They're up 1-0. Trevor Bauer wasn't giving up a run. They win that game. Their worst case scenario, they're getting to a game 3 that Sonny Gray would have pitched against a guy that had made like 6 major league starts. So they had a chance to win the World Series last year. Whether people want to believe that or not, they had a chance, probably one of the better chances in my lifetime.
Yeah.
2012 is the one that really probably sticks out better to me. Maybe 99. But, I mean, like, how many chances do the Reds have where you go, hey, if things go right in the playoffs, they really could win the World Series. And they had a chance last year. It didn't work out, just like it didn't work out in 2012. But that's all you can ask that the front office does is give you a chance to win the World Series. Didn't happen last year, but yeah, I make that trade every time. That trade could not have worked out more perfectly for the Reds. And as I've mentioned before, the Reds are going to get a compensation pick for Bauer that's going to be picked almost in the exact same spot that you picked Taylor Trammell. Now, yeah, you might miss that pick, but I mean, you got the first Cy Young winner in team history. You had a chance to win the World Series, and you're still going to get back a really good pick. Sign me up every time for that move. One other thing on Bauer, real sneaky. I've been trying to keep an eye on the Dodgers rotation because I want to see where Bauer lines up because they have that series in late April against the Dodgers, and I want to map out to see if he starts against the Reds because that would be must see TV. A 10 o'clock game in LA.
Yeah.
Reds Bauer. Oh man, that's the kind of games that you just regular season you get up for. You're super excited about. That would be a lot of fun because I do think as good as Bauer was, I do think there's some guys on the Reds that did not love him, just from kind of some of the emotions you saw. Especially that one game where he got mad at I think it was Votto that made the error.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really exciting matchup and what I really want to see. So I really, really hope we get to see that. And as soon as I get that they've announced Kershaw the opening day start, but as soon as they see if he's going to start, before or after Walker Buehler, I'm definitely gonna be mapping that out because I definitely want to see where he's at.
That's the kind of thing where like I wish that. So you have the movie TV. You're pretty fond of the product.
Yeah, I have
I'm
to watch the Reds, so
Yeah. I love the NBA. I cover the NBA. Like I love League Pass, even though sometimes it works awfully. But I feel like the one thing the NFL has baseball and basketball beat is the circumstance where like with NFL Red Zone, where it's like, hey, Joe Burrow's got the Bengals at the 15-yard line. Are they going to score? Watch this clip right here. Like I feel like when Bauer pitches and they play like the Padres, I want the notification to pop on my phone that says like Trevor Bauer versus Fernando Tatis. Open the app now. Like that is like the must see that you talk about like Bauer going against the Reds. Like this Dodgers Padres thing already has some some legs to it. We saw in spring training like they're getting really competitive already with each other, which is great. Baseball really needs that because the Yankees and the Red Sox rivalry hasn't been what it was for a couple decades now since the Red Sox started winning World Series. I know the Yankees have gotten one in that time frame, but like that day when like Nick, you're not going to hear me ever say a bad thing about Fernando Tatis. I love the fact he has fun playing baseball. So like that's where I feel like MLB TV could really boost getting subscribers because like I want that bottom of the first. They're in San Diego. Manny Machado got on. He's on second. Tatis is up. Watch the clip. Watch the at bat right here. That's what I want.
Yeah, I 100% believe that Bauer and the Padres will have beef at some point. That seems
Yes.
like inevitable. They probably will be on a lot, even in like for people in Cincinnati. There's just not that many West Coast teams that play at 10 o'clock, so they'll probably be on MLB Network a lot, and on ESPN. So I would imagine even if you don't get MLB TV, sorry, bad plug for them, you'll probably still be able to see them a lot. But yeah, they'll definitely be beef. I don't know if we got any more. I got one more from Carlos. It says Garrett being reliable out of the pen makes him a little nervous. Hittable fastball, struggles with command at times. Solid but medium control slider. And pretty much every hitter dislikes him, which is true, which is why you love him if he's on your team.
Right.
I mean, look, I think the control's got to get better if he's going to be your top dude out of the bullpen. Like I've been saying, his control's been pretty below average every year. So, yeah, I mean, but when he's on, he's on. There is a lot of left-handed batters in the division. Like in the Cubs lineup, you've got Rizzo, you've got Hayward, who can't hit a lefty to save his life. So that's why I don't want him just as the closer, because if you have Rizzo and Hayward as two of three guys in an order up in the eighth inning, Garrett should be pitching that inning, not the ninth inning. And if it's the ninth, vice versa. So yeah, I mean, I again, he's got to get the control better, but I still really love him when you got a string of lefties. The Brewers are a team that's got a lot of left-handed batters, and even like Hira is actually has reverse splits where he hits right-handed pitchers a lot better than left-handed pitchers. So I definitely think there's a lot of really good spots for Garrett, and I think that's where David Bell really shines is finding who to use in what spot, with Sims versus Garrett. So I really hope they don't name one a closer and one not, because I think they need to mix and match to make them most effective.
Yeah, like we talked about last week, I feel like if they went the route of the 99 team, I'd be happy. All right, we will end here. I want to ask you this one last thing before we wrap up, because we've gone.
Oh, we did get. Or do you want to answer Will's question?
Yeah, he said, have you guys been following the beef between Bauer and Syndergaard? And it's been fun. I feel like, there's always this talk about like, well, baseball doesn't do a good job marketing their players. Fair. But like, yeah, it feels like the only marketing these days is like, are you on the cover of MLB The Show? And that's like the only marketing. But, seeing like Trevor Bauer take on this personality, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people who really dislike him. I've kind of really dug it, in the sense that like it gives like personality. When Trevor Bauer goes into San Diego, like we said earlier, he's going to get booed. When he comes back to Cincinnati, he might have a mixed reaction. I don't think the Dodgers and the Indians line up in interleague play this year, but that would be interesting to see how that reaction goes. You obviously living in Cleveland. My fiance her family is a Cleveland family, so I would be keeping tabs on the Indians when the Reds aren't playing, as obviously. So yeah, man, like, Will, I have seen it. I love it. I need more of it. There was all that crap last year. I mentioned Tatis earlier when he like had that bat flip and like stared at the ball and people like hated it. Like, consider me new wave energy, but like I'm down for that stuff. I want that swagger on the field again. Like, I think that's why people loved Eric Davis so much, was because he would hit home runs and he would like just be the coolest guy on the field. And it feels like we're kind of getting a little bit of that back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited for baseball. I can't wait. Man, just like it's not even always the games. It's just that that every day during 162 games, there's just something to be interested in and looking at and following, and that's just, I think, what makes baseball so cool, is just over the course of a year. And even if you only watch 3 or 4 games a week, which obviously I watch a lot more than that, but even if you do, you can still follow the team every day, and it's just I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm the same way. All right, Nick, last question of the night before we get out of here. What was weirder for you to see? Todd Frazier in a Pirates jersey or Jay Bruce in Yankee pinstripes?
Oh wow! Yeah, I completely forgot that Todd Frazier is on the Pirates. I haven't seen anything. Do they think he's going to make the MLB roster? He signed a minor league deal, right?
Yeah, Bruce said it might do with the Yankees too.
Okay. I guess probably Frazier just because it's the Pirates. Like, I don't. Maybe this is weird and it's off. Um, but I feel like Jay Bruce was like destined to be a Yankee. Like he kind of has that like
Yeah.
Jay Bruce this very polite with reporters and very like upstanding guy. Like he kind of seems like he should be a Yankee. So I would go Frazier just because like it's an interdivision team. Um, yeah, I mean thankfully Frazier's not very good. So at this point in his career, so now he'll probably hit 5 home runs against the Reds this year. Now that I said that, but yeah, I guess I would go Frazier just because like Bruce kind of always has had that like yeah I could be a Yankee vibe.
I always loved that, like, for like the 50, 60 games he played for the Indians, the Cleveland fans loved him. Like, I always like thought that was fascinating when they were like, yeah, we traded for Bruce, we made a playoff run, we lost to the Yankees, but they're like, but Jay, he was great for us. And it's like, I never thought I would hear you guys say that ever.
They got good Jay.
They
I was
did.
huge Jay Bruce fan. I thought he was very underrated in his time here. Um, he never turned out to be that superstar, but he had a really good career with the Reds. And honestly, the Reds got his best years because after he left the Reds, he wasn't very good other than those like 2 weeks in Cleveland. Um, but yeah, they definitely got the best of him. For sure. It's kind of weird. Like Indians fans like Jay Bruce more than Yasiel Puig, which like who would have thought
Yeah.
that? You know.
Right.
um, yeah. So yeah. Yeah. And they also I think they had like their 22-game win streak when he was on the roster. So I mean that kind of helps
Yeah.
too. I mean they were winning every night, even if Jay Bruce went over 4. Who cares? We won. Our 10th straight or 15th straight. So that kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, you're like Jay Bruce to the Yankees thing. I always thought about like why it took so long for Adam Dunn to play for the A's because he was like the perfect Billy Bean player. Like
Yeah.
they didn't care about striking out, but he got on base 38% of the time. Set. So yes, I know we can talk about nostalgic Reds all night. Let's go ahead and get this going to wrap this up. Thank you all, whether you were in the chat, you had some questions for us. It's cool. Like this means a ton to us. We've been like really enjoying these past couple weeks. We can't wait to be back next week. We're the night before opening day next week. So guys, we are really going to literally be talking baseball. So we're going to be discussing how we think the lineup's going to do, our projections for the roster overall. We're excited for it. Thank you all again and have a great night. And we can't wait to be back next week.